The sterile white walls of the Nova Labs echoed with the rhythmic hum of unseen machinery. 10-year-old Leon clutched a worn stuffed bear, its single button eye staring blindly ahead. He shuffled along the corridor, his small sneakers barely making a sound against the polished floor. Lost. That's all he could think about. Just lost. The hallway bustled with activity. Lab technicians in blue jumpsuits whizzed past, their faces etched with a focused intensity. Occasionally, Leon would catch a snippet of their conversation jargon about quantum entanglement and cryogenic sleep protocols that swam over his head like alien languages. Suddenly, a booming voice startled him. "Hey Jude, you look like you could use a map." Leon looked up to see a woman with a kind smile and grease stains on her overalls. Her name tag read Maya Robotics Engineer. Yeah, Leon mumbled, clutching his bear tighter. "I'm trying to find my dad." Maya crouched down, her eyes meeting his. "What's his name, kiddo?" "Frank Morris," Leon replied, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. A thoughtful crease appeared on Maya's forehead. "Frank Morris. Huh, sounds familiar. Oh, right. He's on the crew for the..." She hesitated, glancing around, then leaned in conspiratorially. "He's on the crew for the special mission today." Leon's hopeful flicker died. "Mission," he squeaked. The word had a vaguely ominous ring to it. "Yeah," Maya said, straightening up. "Going out beyond the atmosphere. Gathering some, important stuff. Going out beyond the atmosphere." Leon's voice wobbled, like into space. Maya's smile faltered. "Well, yeah," she admitted. "Something like that." Leon felt a cold pit open in his stomach. But he can't go into space. Not without me." Tears welled up in his eyes. "He promised we'd watch the launch together." Maya knelt down again, her voice gentle. "Listen, kiddo, your dad's doing something really important. Something that could change everything we know about a lot of things. It's a big deal." A tear escaped Leon's eye, tracing a warm path down his cheek. "But what about the black hole?" Maya blinked. "Black hole? What did someone tell you about a black hole?" Confusion clouded Leon's face. "But Dad told me he was going to take a picture of a black hole. He said it was a space mission." Maya's brow furrowed. "A black hole? Now that doesn't sound right. Capturing a picture of a black hole is incredibly dangerous, even for the most seasoned astronauts." Leon's lower lip trembled. "Dangerous, right?" he whimpered, clinging to his bear even tighter. "Well," Maya started cautiously, "there are definitely risks involved. But listen, your dad's a top-notch space engineer. He wouldn't take on a mission he wasn't prepared for. Besides, capturing the first image of a black hole has been his dream since he was a kid, just like you." A glimmer of hope flickered in Leon's eyes. Just then, a door at the end of the corridor hissed open, and a tall figure emerged. It was Frank Morris, his face etched with a mix of excitement and nervousness. His eyes scanned the hallway until they landed on Leon. "Leon," Frank boomed, a wide grin splitting his face. "There you are. I was starting to think I'd lost my little astronaut." Leon spun around, his bear forgotten for a moment. Relief washed over him as he launched himself into his father's arms. "Dad, I thought you went into space." Frank chuckled, ruffling Leon's hair. "Not quite, buddy. There were some last-minute adjustments to the mission plan. But hey, how about we grab some ice cream after work and celebrate?" "My treat." Leon pulled back, a frown etching his forehead. "But the black hole, Dad, isn't that dangerous? Frank glanced at Maya, a silent exchange passing between them. He then knelt before Leon, his expression turning serious. There are always risks involved in space exploration, champ. But your dad's one of the best in the business. Besides, I wouldn't do anything that would put myself in danger of not being there for you. Frank squeezed Leon's shoulder. Maybe someday, when you're all grown up, you can follow in my footsteps and become an astronaut yourself. But for now, he winked, let's focus on less dangerous adventures. Okay? Maya cleared her throat, a playful smile tugging at her lips. Easy there, hotshot. Don't you think exploring the universe is a bit much for a 10-year-old? Frank chuckled, a hint of pride in his eyes. Maybe you're right, Maya. But hey, a man can dream, can't he? And who knows, maybe one day Leon will surpass even his old man. A pang of disappointment flickered in Leon's eyes. All right, Dad, he mumbled, kicking a stray pebble on the floor. But you still gotta be careful, okay? Frank ruffled Leon's hair one last time. Always, champ. Now listen, the launch is happening any minute now. I gotta get suited up. He stood up, his gaze flickering towards the spaceship in the distance, a gleaming behemoth bathed in pre-launch spotlights. But Dad, the black hole. Leon started again, his voice laced with worry. Frank knelt back down, a determined glint in his eyes. Listen, son, capturing that image will be a giant leap for our agency. A world record, wouldn't you say? Leon pondered for a moment, then nodded hesitantly. Yeah, I guess so. Exactly. Frank boomed, a smile erupting on his face. That's why I need you to promise me something. Leon's brow furrowed. What is it, Dad? Frank's smile softened. Promise me you'll really dig into your space studies when you grow up. Learn everything you can about the universe, about black holes and distant galaxies. Maybe even join the agency someday and become an astronaut yourself. Leon hesitated, his gaze darting between his father and the imposing spaceship. The image of a swirling black hole, a cosmic monster lurking in the darkness, flickered in his mind. Promise me, Leon, Frank pressed gently, his voice filled with hope. Taking a deep breath, Leon straightened his shoulders. I promise, Dad, I'll learn everything there is to know about space. And maybe, just maybe, I'll join you up there someday. Pride beamed in Frank's eyes. That's my boy, he exclaimed, pulling Leon into a tight hug. I love you, champ, more than words can say. With a final squeeze, Frank reluctantly let go, his gaze drawn back to the launchpad. Duty calls, he said, his voice tinged with a hint of nervousness. See you on the other side, kiddo. The roar of the engines vibrated through the ground as Frank approached the colossal rocket. A wave of nervous excitement washed over him, a familiar sensation that had fueled his passion for space exploration since childhood. He glanced back at Leon, who stood rooted to the spot, his expression a mix of worry and pride. Despite the danger, Frank felt a surge of purpose, a determination to capture that elusive image and contribute to humanity's understanding of the universe. As cheers erupted from the assembled crew, Frank gave Leon a final reassuring nod, before climbing the metal ladder and disappearing into the belly of the rocket. Leon watched, his small hand gripping his bear tighter, until the hatch sealed shut with a hiss, leaving only the deafening roar of the engines filling the air. A hand landed gently on Leon's shoulder. He turned to see David, one of his father's co-workers, a kind-faced man with a warm smile. Hey, Leon, David said, I was just looking for you. Your dad gave me something to give you. He pulled out a worn leather watch with a scratched face and a small, sealed envelope. He said it's for you, if you ever decide you want to work here someday. Leon's eyes widened. He carefully took the watch and the card, his heart heavy with a mix of emotions. Thanks, David, he mumbled, clutching the watch to his chest. So, Maya, who had been standing nearby, chimed in, is Frank really going out there to photograph a black hole? David chuckled, a hint of concern in his eyes. That's the plan. It's a risky mission, no doubt, but Frank's the best we've got for this job. Leon looked up at the towering rocket, a silent prayer forming on his lips. He knew the dangers, the stories of astronauts lost in the unforgiving vastness of space. A deafening roar shattered the silence as the rocket ignited, a pillar of fire erupting from its base. Leon squeezed his eyes shut, the ground trembling beneath his feet. When he opened them again, the colossal machine was already rising, leaving a trail of smoke and a growing plume of flame in its wake. 30 minutes ticked by in an agonizingly slow blur. Leon, his eyes glued to the sky, watched as the rocket dwindled into a tiny speck, a blazing point of light against the endless expanse of blue. Anxiety gnawed at him, but a glimmer of hope flickered within. His father was on his way. Inside the cramped rocket cabin, Frank, strapped securely into his seat, felt the G-forces pressing down on him. He watched through the viewport as the Earth rapidly shrunk, its familiar blue and green continents morphing into a swirling marble against the inky blackness of space. With a practiced ease, he shut down the engine, a wave of relief washing over him. Now, the journey would be smooth sailing, on autopilot until he reached his destination. He activated his communicator. Nova Base, this is Mission Specialist Morris. Everything nominal. Currently in a stable orbit, prepped for data collection. Leon's heart leaped in his chest as Maya's voice crackled through the speakers. Mission Specialist Morris, this is Nova Base. We copy. Congratulations. You've officially crossed the exosphere. Welcome to space, Frank. A wide grin spread across Leon's face. His dad in space. He couldn't help but let out a whoop of joy, a sound that echoed through the control room, met with cheers and applause from the gathered crew. Maya smiled, her eyes twinkling with pride. Looks like someone's got a very proud co-pilot down here, she said, her voice filled with warmth. A tense silence fell over the control room after Frank's confirmation of being in space. Leon, still basking in the afterglow of his father's achievement, fidgeted with his bear's worn button eye. Suddenly, a piercing alarm blared, jolting everyone back to attention. Red lights strobed across the consoles as a robotic voice boomed through the speakers. Anomaly detected. Dimensional fluctuations. Critical systems malfunctioning. Panic flared in Maya's eyes. Frank, come in. She yelled into the microphone, her voice tight with worry. Static. Nothing but static crackled back.
R1, I don't know what's going on. Asteroid's coming. I am sorry. I am very much sorry. I might not survive this. Please tell Leon that I was not there for him during the time he needed. I am sorry.
Through the viewport, a chilling sight filled his vision. A jagged mass of rock, an asteroid hurtling towards him at breakneck speed. Oh no, Frank breathed, a wave of despair washing over him. He braced himself for impact. Just as the asteroid seemed about to obliterate the rocket, a blinding white light erupted from behind it. The light intensified, engulfing the asteroid and the rocket in a searing flash. A deafening explosion rocked the spacecraft, throwing Frank against the control panel. Silence. An eerie, unsettling silence descended on the control room. The red lights continued to blink, the alarm's robotic voice replaced by an unnerving quiet. Maya stared at the screen, her face pale. Frank, come in. Can anyone hear us? She called out, her voice trembling. No response, just static. The image on the screen flickered, showing only a vast expanse of empty space. Leon, his face etched with terror, clutched his father's watch to his chest. Had the asteroid hit? Was his father? He couldn't bring himself to voice the dreadful question hanging in the air. A heavy silence blanketed the room, thick with uncertainty and fear. The fate of Frank Morris, lost amidst the stars, remained a chilling mystery. "6 years had zipped by like a rogue comet. Leon, no longer a scrawny teenager, stood at a towering 18. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the excitement and a touch of nervousness in his eyes. "Leon, you'll be late for your first day at the space agency," boomed his mom's voice from downstairs. Leon scrambled down the stairs, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "Right, Mom, I almost forgot." He gave her a quick hug. "I'm gonna miss you so much." His mom squeezed him tight. "I'll miss you too, honey. But remember, you're living your dream. After you reach south of Poland, in Orion Access Space Command in Vermin City, make sure to contact me regularly. Okay?" "Yes, Mom," Leon promised, a lump forming in his throat. This was it. He was finally on his way. With one last hug, he stepped out into the bustling morning. The familiar sights and sounds of Vermin City thrummed with a new energy. This wasn't just his hometown anymore. It was the launching pad to his future amongst the stars. He hailed a taxi at the nearest stand. The grizzled driver, his face etched with the city's relentless pace, looked him up and down. "Where to, son?" "Hamelster Barnef, please," Leon replied, his voice firm with anticipation. The driver grunted in acknowledgement, slid the meter on, and with a cough and a sputter, the taxi lurched forward, carrying Leon towards his destiny at the Orion Access Space Command. The city blurred past, a kaleidoscope of memories and the promise of a future far beyond the horizon. The taxi driver, a seasoned navigator of Vermin City's chaotic streets, dropped Leon off at the imposing Hamelster Barnef. With a curt nod and a grumbled farewell, he pulled away, leaving Leon standing amidst the throngs of travelers. Glancing at his watch, Leon saw it was 11:30 a.m. Perfect timing. He had 30 minutes to board his southbound express train, a behemoth of steel and steam that would hurtle him towards his new life. With a determined stride, Leon weaved through the bustling crowds, his duffel bag bouncing on his shoulder. He found his platform and spotted the sleek, streamlined form of the train, a stark contrast to the weathered brick buildings of the station. Following the stream of passengers, Leon boarded the train and located his designated car sleeper compartment. A quick glance at his ticket confirmed his suspicions he had snagged an upper berth. He hoisted his bag onto the rack above and scanned the compartment. The lower bunk was empty, a small comfort in the otherwise unfamiliar surroundings. "Yes, I have the place to myself," Leon murmured, a hint of surprise in his voice. He stowed his shoes under the seat and sank down onto the plush upholstery, a wave of relief washing over him. 30 minutes of peace before the journey truly began. He leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment, the rhythmic clatter of the train slowly lulling him into a pre-departure doze. Leon's train reverie was shattered by the soft click of the compartment door sliding open. He peeked over the edge of his bunk, expecting a porter or another passenger. Instead, his breath hitched. Standing in the doorway was a girl, seemingly his age, with hair the color of spun sunshine and eyes that twinkled like distant stars. A knapsack hung casually over one shoulder, and a smile played on her lips, radiating warmth and confidence. For a moment, Leon was frozen. Her beauty was a sudden sunbeam piercing the dimness of the compartment, leaving him speechless. A blush crept up his neck, staining his cheeks a furious crimson. He fumbled for words, his tongue suddenly thick and clumsy. "Hi, I'm Ruby," the girl chirped, her voice like wind chimes on a summer breeze. "And you must be." Leon felt his cheeks burn even hotter. He stammered, I am Leon. Nice to meet you." Ruby's chuckle filled the compartment, a sound as light and musical as birdsong. "Oh, looks like I made you blush," she teased, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Leon mumbled a sheepish confirmation, still unable to tear his gaze away from her. Her presence filled the previously empty space, not just physically, but with a vibrant energy that both excited and intimidated him. Ruby, seemingly oblivious to his flustered state, hoisted her knapsack onto the rack opposite his bunk and plopped down onto the lower berth with a sigh. "There are 2 empty berths still," she mentioned casually, her gaze flitting between him and the vacant bunks. Ruby's question snapped Leon out of his daze. "So, Leon, where are you headed, friend?" she asked, tilting her head with genuine curiosity. His cheeks still burned a delightful shade of pink. He stammered, fighting to regain his composure. "I'm going to the Orion Access Space Command, south of Poland. It's my first day there." Ruby's eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, really? Me too," she exclaimed, a wide grin splitting her face. "That's incredible. Small world, huh?" Leon's blush deepened further. The odds of them sharing the same destination, let alone the same train compartment, seemed astronomical. "Wow," he breathed, a smile mirroring hers. "So, wanna be partners then?" he blurted out, the sudden boldness surprising even himself. Ruby's smile widened even further. "Partners? Sure. Why not?" she chuckled. "At least I won't be bored on this long journey." Relief and a jolt of excitement washed over Leon. He hadn't meant to be so forward, but the idea of having a friendly face, especially one as beautiful as Ruby's, by his side, filled him with a newfound confidence. "Oh, that makes me happy," Leon stammered, finally managing a genuine smile. "Yay," he added sheepishly, the childish outburst escaping his lips before he could stop it. Ruby's laughter filled the compartment once more, a warm and inviting sound that chased away any remaining nervousness Leon harbored. He felt a thrill course through him, the start of a journey not just towards his dream, but perhaps towards an unexpected friendship. or maybe even something more. The train lurched forward, its whistle announcing their departure, and with it, the beginning of an adventure that promised to be far more exciting than Leon ever could have imagined. The rhythmic clickety-clack of the train lulled them into a comfortable silence. Ruby, fiddling with a loose thread on her sleeve, finally broke it. "So, Leon," she began hesitantly, "what motivated you to join the space agency?" "It's just a personal question, you know. It's okay if you don't want to say." Leon, basking in the newfound ease of their conversation, shook his head. No, please, you can ask me anything." He took a deep breath, suddenly feeling a pang of bittersweet nostalgia. "I want to be like my dad." Ruby's brow furrowed. "So, your dad works at the agency too?" Leon's smile faltered slightly. "He used to," he corrected, a hint of sadness tinging his voice. "His name was Frank Morris. He was a great astronaut, you know, one of the best." A jolt of surprise shot through Ruby, momentarily stealing the breath from her lungs. "Frank Morris," she echoed, her voice barely a whisper. Leon, oblivious to the sudden shift in her demeanor, nodded eagerly. "Yeah. He was on the team that first landed a crewed mission on Mars. A true pioneer." The weight of the name hung heavy in the air. Ruby's smile vanished, replaced by a mask of conflicted emotions. Leon, noticing her sudden change in expression, leaned forward with concern. "What's wrong? Did you know my dad?" Ruby's silence stretched on, thick with unspoken revelation. Finally, she broke eye contact with the window and looked at Leon, her voice barely above a whisper. "Wait, Frank Morris. You said your dad was Frank Morris." A flicker of hope ignited in Leon's eyes. "Yeah, he was amazing, wasn't he?" Ruby nodded slowly, a small, sad smile gracing her lips. "He was a legend. My dad always talked about him, about his bravery and his dedication." She paused, her gaze dropping once more. "What happened to your dad, Leon?" I heard from my dad that he died." Leon flinched, a wave of grief washing over him. The memory was still fresh, a gaping wound in his heart. "Ah, yes," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "It happened 6 years ago, when I was just 12. I came to the research lab to see him off. He was going on a mission to photograph a black hole." Ruby listened intently, her eyes wide with horror. "But something happened, didn't it?" Leon took a shaky breath. "An asteroid," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It hit his rocket. They lost communication, and he trailed off, unable to finish the sentence, the raw pain of the memory threatening to engulf him." Ruby reached out hesitantly, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "Oh no, Leon," she murmured, her voice filled with genuine sympathy. "I am so very sorry for that." Leon managed a weak smile, squeezing her hand back. "It's okay," he said, more for himself than for her. "Accidents don't come with warnings, you know." Despite the forced bravado, his voice trembled slightly. The weight of revelation continued to press down on them. Leon, needing to break the heavy silence, decided to reciprocate Ruby's earlier question. "So, what about your dad, Ruby? What's his name?" Ruby hesitated for a moment, then met his gaze with a newfound openness. "His name is David Alcroze," she said softly. Leon's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, David. Wait, does he work at the Orion Access Space Command, the one we're going to?" A flicker of a smile touched Ruby's lips. "Yes, he does," she confirmed. "No way," Leon exclaimed, excitement replacing the earlier somber mood. "I know him. When I was 12, he was a co-worker with my dad." He launched into a recollection of a friendly, cheerful man who always had a joke or a kind word for him whenever he visited his dad at the agency. Ruby's smile broadened. "Really? Wow, this is incredible." "It's like where," she trailed off, searching for the right word. Leon finished her thought with a grin. "Like siblings." "Yeah, Totally. The realization struck him with a jolt of unexpected joy. They weren't just fellow passengers on a train. They were children of astronauts bound together by a shared past and a shared dream. Exactly, Ruby chimed in, her voice brimming with newfound enthusiasm. That's why we're partners, right? Partners on this crazy journey. Not just to the Orion Access Space Command, but maybe even beyond. A spark of determination ignited in Leon's eyes. He looked at Ruby, no longer just a beautiful stranger, but a kindred spirit, a fellow space enthusiast with a story as captivating as his own. Partners, he echoed, a sense of adventure and camaraderie filling his chest. To the stars and beyond. Leon's gaze drifted towards the window, the passing landscape blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors. A determined glint sparked in his eyes as he spoke. I need to fulfill my dad's dream, Ruby, to take a picture of a black hole. Ruby's smile faltered. Her hand tightened on his arm, a flicker of fear replacing the newfound joy. What? Leon, are you crazy? Your dad tried to do the same thing, and you saw what happened to him. Leon understood her concern. The memory of losing his father was still a fresh wound, but alongside the pain, there was an ember of his father's passion that burned brightly within him. I know, he said softly, turning to face her, but my dad, he had this incredible dream, to capture a real image of a black hole, something no one had ever done before. He believed it would unlock so many secrets about the universe. He paused, his voice thickening with emotion. And I can't let his dream die in vain. As his son, I feel a responsibility to carry it on. To use what he learned to be more careful, more prepared. But to try, because maybe, just maybe, I can succeed where he couldn't. Ruby stared at him, her heart torn between fear and admiration. She saw the unwavering determination in his eyes, a reflection of the same spirit that had driven her father and countless other astronauts to reach for the unknown. Leon, she said finally, her voice filled with a newfound resolve. I understand why you want to do this. It's a noble goal, honoring your father's legacy. But you have to promise me one thing. You'll be careful. You'll take every precaution. You won't be reckless. A slow smile spread across Leon's face. I promise, Ruby. I'll learn everything I can, train harder than anyone. Your dad will be there too, at the Space Command, right? Maybe he can guide me, share his experiences with my dad. A flicker of hope ignited in Ruby's eyes. Yes, he'll be there, and maybe, just maybe, together we can help you achieve your dream. Your father's dream. Their moment of shared resolve was shattered by a most unwelcome intrusion. The compartment door slid open with a groan, and a figure lumbered in, casting a grotesque shadow across the room. It was a man impossibly wide with a belly that protruded like a beached whale. His unwashed clothes clung to him, and a pungent odor that could only be described as a week-old gym sock filled the air. Ruby wrinkled her nose, instinctively covering her face with her hand. The man, oblivious to the effect he was having, lumbered closer to their berth, stopping with a grunt right in front of them. He scratched his belly absently, the sound of his fingernails scraping against his stretched skin adding to the general unpleasantness. Ruby, overwhelmed by the stench and the man's audacity, let out a disgusted squeak and instinctively threw her arms around Leon, burying her face in his shoulder. A wave of heat flooded Leon's cheeks as he felt her soft form press against him. He was flustered, yet strangely protective. The man, seemingly unfazed by the reaction he caused, continued his scratching and grunted in what might have been a greeting before lumbering on towards another compartment. Relief washed over Leon as the door slid shut with a heavy thud, momentarily trapping them in their bubble of shared experience. Ruby, realizing her outburst, quickly extricated herself from Leon's embrace. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, she exclaimed, a blush creeping up her neck. I mean you. This journey is already off to a bad start. Leon, still flustered but secretly enjoying the brief contact, stammered, "It's okay, really. I kind of enjoyed it." The blush on his cheeks deepened as the realization of his words hit him. Ruby burst out laughing, the sound like wind chimes chasing away the awkwardness. "Oh, Leon, you really are bad at this, aren't you?" she teased, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Leon chuckled sheepishly, the encounter quickly fading into a memory overshadowed by the sense of connection he felt with Ruby. As the train continued its journey, they settled back into their conversation, the unexpected interruption serving as a reminder of the strange and wonderful things that could happen on the path to achieving one's dreams. Night draped itself over the world outside, painting the passing landscape in shades of inky black, punctuated by the occasional twinkling light of a distant town. Inside the compartment, the rhythmic clatter of the train had softened to a lullaby, its steady thrum a comforting counterpoint to the silence within. Leon, nestled in his upper bunk, gazed down at Ruby curled up on the lower berth. The soft glow of the reading lamp cast a warm light on her face, highlighting the peaceful serenity of her sleep. A small smile played on his lips. He had never expected to find a kindred spirit, let alone a beautiful one, on this train journey. "Good night, Ruby," he whispered softly, his voice barely audible over the train's gentle hum. From below, a muffled response drifted up. "Good night, Leon." With a content sigh, Leon turned off his reading lamp, plunging the compartment into a comforting darkness. He closed his eyes, the rhythmic rocking of the train, and the soft sounds of Ruby's breathing, lulling him into a peaceful slumber. The train, a steel serpent carving its way through the night, carried them both towards an uncertain future, a future brimming with the promise of new beginnings, shared dreams, and perhaps even something more. A sliver of golden sunlight peeked through the gap in the curtains, rousing Leon from his sleep. He stretched luxuriously, the events of yesterday playing like a vivid dream in his mind. The memory of Ruby's warmth against him in the face of the obnoxious stranger brought a smile to his face. He sat up, blinking away the remnants of sleep. The rhythmic clickety-clack of the train had shifted into a higher gear, a telltale sign of increased speed. Outside, the world whizzed by in a blur of greens and browns, the countryside slowly giving way to the outskirts of a bustling city. A soft voice startled him. "Good morning, sleepyhead." Ruby sat on her lower bunk, a playful glint in her eyes. Her hair was a tousled mess, and she wore a sleepy smile that sent a jolt straight to his heart. "Good morning," Leon stammered, feeling a familiar blush creep up his cheeks. "Did you sleep well?" "Like a log," Ruby chuckled. "The rocking of the train actually puts me to sleep quite easily." Leon glanced at his watch. "Wow, it's already late morning," he exclaimed, surprised by the passage of time. "How much longer until we reach the station?" Ruby checked her phone. "Not much longer," she announced. "The app says we should be arriving at the station in about 10 minutes. Excitement bubbled in Leon's chest. He stood up, his gaze flitting between the speeding scenery and Ruby's expectant face. 10 minutes, he murmured, a nervous energy coursing through him. 10 minutes until a new chapter begins. The train shrieked to a halt, jolting Leon and Ruby out of their pre-arrival reverie. A wave of anticipation washed over them as the automated announcement declared their arrival at the station, the gateway to their dreams. Together, they gathered their belongings, their movements a well-rehearsed dance honed during their unexpected yet comfortable train journey. Exiting the compartment, they were swept into the bustling throng of disembarking passengers. The station was a chaotic symphony of activity. Loudspeakers blared announcements, while the hurried footsteps of travelers echoed off the high ceilings. Undeterred, Leon and Ruby navigated the flow, their shared purpose a silent compass guiding them. Reaching the taxi rank, they flagged down a waiting cab. As they settled into the back seat, a sense of accomplishment washed over Leon. He glanced at Ruby, a grin spreading across his face. "We made it," he said, the simple sentence holding a multitude of emotions. Ruby returned his smile, her eyes shining with excitement. "We did," she agreed. "The Orion Access Space Command awaits." The taxi sped through the bustling city, weaving through traffic with practiced ease. Leon watched the cityscape blur by, a mix of modern skyscrapers and historical buildings. He could almost taste the promise of the future hanging in the air. Finally, the taxi driver announced their arrival. Leon peered out the window, his breath catching in his throat. There, nestled amidst sprawling greenery, stood the Orion Access Space Command, a majestic complex of gleaming buildings and launch pads that seemed to pierce the sky. With a shared nod, Leon and Ruby paid the fare and stepped out of the cab. Taking a deep breath of the crisp morning air, they stood at the threshold of their future, their journey together only just beginning. The vastness of the Orion Access Space Command stretched before them, a canvas waiting for them to paint their dreams upon. Hand in hand, they walked towards the imposing gates, ready to embark on the next chapter of their adventure, a chapter filled with the promise of discovery, camaraderie, and the boundless wonder of the cosmos.